So you started your sales career working at Box, which was more of a traditional sales led model, and then from there you went on to work at Quip, Intercom, Loom, all product led models. I'm curious, like what you think about is the biggest difference between more of a sales led versus a product led model.
Yeah, I think it really harkens back to sort of this central idea that I've stolen from people who are much smarter than myself, but it's just really right tool for right job, right? Like in 2010, after predictable revenue came out and Salesforce kind of became the bee's knees in terms of how to change the game in terms of like SaaS and building SaaS sales teams and building repeatability at scale. Um, Sales led like had to be kind of the tool to get you from A to B for much of the more transactional, more volume based, more SMB based business, because frankly, it was the right tool for the right job. As technology matures, as teams grow, and as sort of like the macroeconomic starts to do things like to reward efficiency and efficient growth, things like product led are pulled forward. And it's been really exciting over the past 3.5, 4 years to see product led take a bigger piece of the pie to figure out, hey, this is going to get you not only to 5 mil, 10 mil, 50 mil in ARR, but potentially product led could be like the biggest catalyst for getting you to 30, 50, or in some cases much further than that in ARR.
And in that, like in the actual sales motion itself, what makes sales led really different than product led? I know in product led, they're obviously just getting dropped into the product itself and starting to play around with it. But like, how does sort of the mentality of a sales rep change in those sort of two different worlds?
Yeah, I think this is a fun one because it's easy to fall into the trap of binary thinking here, of just like sales led and product led as being kind of like one or the other, either or, where in reality, a lot of times it's complementary. Like, how far can we get with product led? How can we leverage product as a differentiator to help build a coherent and cohesive buying experience? So, just designing for buying. What is the role of product in that? And then at what point is a human the best tool to sort of connect different stakeholders, become multi-threaded in deals, and to take complex and nuanced processes, the human processes, and to make sure that those are moving in a direction that's going to ultimately increase your chances for closing that deal, closing that revenue. And so I think that um, whenever faced with the decision of, is it better for this to be product led or is this better for this to be like sales led, I always try and like go back into that designing for buying mindset and figure out, if I were buying this software, what would the experience be that I wanted? Is this the right point for a sales rep, for Pete to jump in and intervene? Or is this something where I actually want to do a little bit of exploration to get smart and to figure out how far I can kind of take this on my own?
And I imagine like more complex products that are harder to set up or have to be more sales led, where maybe more SMB can be a little bit more product led. Is that the right way to think about it?
I think there's a product complexity layer to it. I think the other thing to think about too is, if you're building a product in a new space or you're taking a markedly different approach to an old problem, a lot of times buyers don't know what they don't know. If you divide the world in kind of that Johari window of known, 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 unknown, unknown, known, and unknown, unknown, if you're building in a new space, I think about a lot of the AI companies that have come out over the past year. If you're building in a really new, really dynamic, and really unknown space, that might actually be a good time for you to intervene earlier in the process to sort of help open up a prospect's eyes in terms of what's possible, and to do a little bit of the challenger sale on traditional thinking earlier.
Very cool. And I feel like, I mean, the chat bubble now is super iconic, right? You go to every website and there's a chat bubble. You go into every product and there's a chat bubble. But it seems like there was this big education component at Intercom. Like, yes, it was viral and people really liked it, but like you still had to teach people sort of this new way of working with customers. And yeah, I don't know. How did you think about building that category and teaching people that you were working with?
Yeah, I think early on, when you're in a new space like that, or you're taking a new approach in a well-worn space, you're faced with the challenge of building an ROI story without having completely direct ROI inputs. And so you have to use kind of an example of social proof. You have to use kind of a logical thinking proof, but you also have to kind of tap into this idea of, how can I kind of like build the emotional story and resonate with someone on a human level of, if you were on the site and you got the chat bubble that popped up and it said, ask us anything, that's one level of an experience. if you're on a site where it's a pricing page, you're specifically looking at, B2B versus B2C pricing, and your product in the entertainment space. If you got a chat bubble that said, hey, it looks like you're looking for B2C pricing, and you might be in the entertainment space. Here are two examples of companies who have used this in the past. How can we help you? And I think like that is kind of maybe bordering on like creepy in terms of like what you pull in, but it's also just like relevant. Like you want to serve somebody up with something relevant and useful. The worst thing you can do, and you as somebody who's worked in go-to-market teams and in different startups, the worst thing you can do is not add value. And so I think like adding that layer of relevance helped us get closer to adding value faster. That was always something that I felt good about.
Yeah. And I imagine this is where product led is super powerful too, because they can actually see it and play around with it and see how it impacts them.